This is the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. So right away, Dale Carnegie. You guys know Dale Carnegie. He was born 1888 to 1955. So a short paragraph described himself as a simple country boy from Missouri, but was also a pioneer of self-improvement in his genre. Since the 1936 publication of his first book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he has reached millions of readers, and his classic works continue to impact lives to this day. So an old guy, but very, very impactful. Author credibility, I gave him an 8, perhaps even higher, but I just thought he was very credible. His ability to speak to the subject gave him a 9. His PV for us, a 6. I thought it spoke to the PV, not super directly, but it really did. Personal feel, I had an 8 reading the book. I really enjoyed reading this book, and the recommendation for our team to read it, I gave it a 4, perhaps maybe a little higher, because it's such a classic and it has so many good points, but the points are so straightforward. I'm going to just literally read every single one of them now. They're kind of like the tips, the 92 tips that just boom, straightforward. You don't really need to read the book to get it all. So that was a 7 overall average. So let's get right into the book. Part 1, Fundamental Techniques in Handling People. He gives 3 principles here. The first principle is this. It's don't criticize, condemn, or complain. He says criticism, if you criticize someone, it's always just going to come back to you and hurt you. So make sure you never criticize, condemn, or complain. Principle number 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. Don't give fake appreciation. Flattery is like counterfeit money. People will take it, but eventually you will get caught because people are just so hungry for appreciation. So don't fake it. Like, really look at somebody, figure it out, and appreciate them for it. Principle number 3, arouse in the other person an eager want. I like this Henry Ford's quote. He says, if there is any one secret to success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own. So the trick there is you want to figure out what they want, and then you want them to get really hungry about it, and then you want to provide the solution. Part 2, 6 ways to make people like you. 6 more principles. Principle number 1, become genuinely interested in other people. Become genuinely interested in other people. Number 2, principle number 2. I like this. Even the chapter's title is a simple way to make a good first impression. Here it is, one word. Smile. Smile. The expression one wears on his face is far more important than the clothes one wears on his back. I thought that was a good quote. And then one more Chinese proverb with this. I love this. A man without a smiling face must not open a shop. Okay, principle number 3. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. You talk about some proof for the stranger. Boom, there it is. That's my proposal. Let's see, principle number 4, be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. You just want other people to talk about themselves. Principle number 5, talk in terms of the other person's interest. It almost comes back up to the first section. He said something very similar. Principle number 6, make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. Quote here, the unvarnished truth is that almost all the people you meet feel themselves superior to you in some way, and a sure way to their hearts is to let them realize in some subtle way that you recognize their importance and recognize it sincerely. To me, I like that because it comes from the thought process through Philippians chapter 2, where we're told to think of others as more highly than ourselves. It's hard to do that because, even as he says here, we tend to think we're more important than anyone else, and everyone else thinks they're more important than us. But the winner will actually say, you know what, in a true and honest way, you are more important. I need to figure that out, and then I need to, in a subtle kind of way, express that. I don't need to be all crazy, like you're more important, but just in a subtle way, you are more important, and your desires and wants are. So part 3, how to win people to your way of thinking. Now, this is very important for us with the systems. How do we win people to our way of thinking? The chapter title here is you can't win an argument. You just can't. You cannot win an argument. So the principle here is the only way to get, oh my, I didn't actually, I forget, this one didn't get written all the way out. So the only way to get, I don't know, I'm going to read the quotes here. There's one way under high heaven to get the best of an argument, and that is to avoid it. So just don't argue. 9 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10 arguing leave the contest more firmly convinced that they are absolutely right. So if I'm coming into an argument, I've noticed this over and over, if I come into an argument knowing my point of view, trying to prove it, the other person's not going to be convinced. I'm going to be convinced more of my view. So if you're trying to win an argument, don't argue. Principle number 2, show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say you're wrong. Never say you're wrong. Show you may be wrong, and the other person will have an open mind. So this means never say you're wrong, but on top of this in this chapter is if you kind of come to the argument saying, hey, I could be wrong in this situation. Once again, sincerely, don't be faking it, just to win an argument. But truly, I could be wrong, so let me see your point of view. I'm going to give you mine. There's a possibility I'm wrong. The other person will actually come with more of an open mind. Principle number 3, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Proverb here, by fighting, you never get enough, but by yielding, you get more than enough. I think that was really cool. Principle number 4, I like the chapter's name here, is a drop of honey. And there's a reason he named it that. This is principle number 4. Begin in a friendly way. Be a friend. He says, show you are a sincere friend. And here it is, the old adage quote here. It is an old saying, a drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall. G-A-L-L, gall. And so what that means is, I just even think about that. A drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall. Crap, nastiness. And so the idea is if you can be that drop of honey in conversation, you're going to win a lot more with people, especially in their way of thinking. If you can be that drop of honey versus that gallon of gall, like you can bring all of this to the argument, but if you just be a friend, like show someone, look, I'm really here for you. I sincerely care for you. I am your friend. Boom, you're going to win a lot more than you're going to lose. The next chapter, which is principle 5, but I like the name of this chapter as well, The Secret of Socrates. This is a very good principle, and it's also good for communication. I've heard it in communication, even myself. I've communicated a lot, and just as studying different communicators, I've noticed they do this. And so reading this book just confirmed a notion that I had found. And so it's get the other person saying, yes, yes, immediately. I noticed communicators do this a lot, that if they're preaching like the first, so like T.D. Jakes, for example, I'll notice that for the first maybe 15, 20 minutes, he's just preaching truth. And it's always just truth that he knows his audience is going to agree with. He's not coming out making an argument, truth, 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 because the audience is sitting there going, I call it the amen effect. They're just saying amen, 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 amen. And so when you begin to bring about a challenge, then they're automatically agreeing with you, and so they're more likely to continue to agree with the challenge and reverse their way of thinking versus if you come straight out with challenge. Get people saying yes, yes, and I like that because it's Socrates' little deal. Principle number 6, let the other person do a great deal of the talking. So this goes back to their interest in the previous part. Just get the other person to talk. You don't need to be talking so much. Principle number 7, let the other person feel that the idea is his or hers. Now, this one's very hard because when you have an idea in your head and you can ask enough questions to get someone to actually bring that idea out, you always want to say, like I always want to say this, like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, or no, exactly, you got there, that's what I, and it's just like, no, just shut up, let them have that glory moment, it's okay, like just calm down. So let the other person get some of that glory there, let them feel as if it is their idea. Principle number 8, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. If you can get in, if you're arguing or even thinking and that type of thing, and you really can focus on like, what is this person thinking? What's their point of view? What's their perspective? What's their worldview? What's the context that they come from? If you can do that, man, it really is going to change everything in conversation, because you're going to think more about the other person. It's going to force you to make them to think highly of them over yourself. It's going to force you to allow them to talk more. You're going to ask more questions. So just even shifting your mindset of what is this person's point of view versus I want to show them mine can be very powerful. Principle 9, be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. Catch their emotions. Understand that what they're saying, and not just what they're saying, but also what they're feeling. And if you can understand what they're feeling and you can put your feet in their shoes, then you'll be very sympathetic. Most people want to feel sympathy, or want someone to feel sympathy for them. It's just that simple. Principle number 10, appeal to the nobler motives. Appeal to the nobler motives. So those higher values, appeal to those. Appeal to those in when you're attempting to get someone to think the way you think. Don't stoop down and appeal to different motivations like, hey man, we can get rich if we do that. But appeal to the more higher motives like service and like love and things like that. Principle 11, dramatize your ideas. Dramatize your ideas. The chapter title was The Movies Do It, TV Does It. Why don't you do it? So dramatize it. Make it into a movie. Turn it into a story. Don't just be so bland and straightforward, but kind of bring out a good story. Bring out something big when you're trying to win people. And I think that's just the reason you do that is because it's emotionally engaging. You get people in an emotional state, then there's a great chance you'll win them over to your way of thinking. Last principle of this section, of this part, is principle 12, throw down a challenge. Throw down a challenge. I like this. He says, a desire to win and well, actually, I said this, paraphrased it from him. A desire to win and excel drives people. It just drives people. So if you can challenge people in a way that, look, like we do with our scoreboard, look, you can win if you do this. People are more likely to jump on it because they want to win. They want to get after something. And so I found that to be very true. Part 4, last part here, be a leader. It's called How to Change People Without Giving Offense or Arousing Resentment. So it's kind of his idea of being a leader, what you need to be doing as a leader. He says a leader's job often includes changing your people's attitudes and behavior. Some suggestions to accomplish this, and then he's going to give these principles. Principle number 1. Begin with praise and honest appreciation. So we already kind of looked at that, but I like this quote. Beginning with praise is like a dentist who begins his work with Novocaine. The patient still gets a drilling, but the Novocaine is a painkiller. It's pretty dang good. Principle number 2, call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. I think this is, I don't know how much I agree with this one. I do think that depends on, if you remember people fuel, what quadrant you're in with people. If you're just present, if you're in that just present, then if you need to challenge someone, you probably need to do it in a more direct way. If you're in the convey the good, you probably need to do it in a more direct way. But once you start to get to provide reality with people, so I'm in a stance where I can provide reality, I have built that much rapport, then I think you need to come a little more direct. But especially if you're in that last quadrant of, I have so much rapport with this person that I can challenge them, I can get them to take action, then I think you need to come a little more direct with it. Principle number 3, talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. It's just so key. You see someone doing something wrong, think about when you did it wrong. Just think about when you did it wrong. And even if, I'm going to add this, even if you've never done that wrong, which I doubt it, then still think about other things that you have done wrong, and you can express, I can see myself messing up here. I see why you did that wrong. I've jacked it up in similar ways and similar manners. Principle number 4, ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Ask questions. He talks about asking questions stimulates creativity. I like that, and I add to that just in the context of this leadership. This also just puts people in a positive mood. If you're asking questions and it stimulates creativity, you're going to be in a good mood. People are in good moods when they're feeling creative. So principle number 5, let the other person save face. Principle number 6, Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. Principle number 7, give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. I think it was Churchill in one book I read at one time that did that. He would give his people a great reputation over the radio. He would talk about them in such a way that they felt like they needed to live up to it, and that helped them win the war. Principle number